and welcome to this panel on Pure Project Management, where we're going to talk about what is Pure and why it's unique and why you should enroll in the Pure program. I'd like to start our conversation by introducing you to many of our trainers that are part of the Pure program. So let's start with Tanya Boyd.
Hi, my name is Tanya Boyd, and my course is From Risk to Rewards, Reframing the Project Journey.
Great. And Clinton Brooks Herman?
Thank you. Clinton Brooks Herman, and my course is Adaptive Project Management Strategies.
Great. And Candace Jackson?
Hello, everyone. I'm Candace Jackson, and my course is Creative Project Management for Startups.
Great. And I'll welcome my friend Dave.
Hey, hello. My name is Dave. I'm a project manager / delivery manager, and my courses are Mastering Agile Retrospectives and Lean Delivery in Action.
And Dave, with that accent, are you from Tennessee?
Not far away, just in the northeast of England, not too far.
You know, I always give you grief for that. I love it. Ben Chan, welcome.
Hi, my name is Ben Chan. I'm your instructor for creative problem solving with your team.
Great. Welcome, Ben. Jeremiah?
Hello. I'm Jeremiah Hammond, and I am the high voltage project management instructor.
Great. Welcome. And Joshua?
Thank you for having me. I'm the instructor for the future of AI and automation for project managers.
Let's go ahead and continue the conversation. And a question that I've received a lot of over the past few weeks, and I know a lot of you have received as well, is why Pure? Why should I enroll in the Pure program? So I know all of us are biased because we all teach in the program, but if you were going to counsel someone or coach someone on why Pure would be good for them, how would you answer that question? So anybody that wants to take that.
It's not about the theory. It's all about reality and actually what you've done before and how you can implement immediately. So I've seen that throughout the courses and definitely stands true completely.
Yeah, I agree. And Ben, you started to say something?
Yeah, I think really what we've tried to do with Pure is give a larger perspective of all the different elements that come into project management in the real life. The
Right.
PMP, the foundations, even things with Agile and Scrum, they all have elements and methodologies that we can definitely go and follow, but there's also the human interactions, all of the different conversations that we're having, and ways that we're trying to enable our team and ourselves to be able to excel. And that's where I think we've been able to go and capture a lot of this knowledge out of our practical experience of what works and how you can go and make it work within your projects to deliver better.
I agree. Anyone else have a thought on that? Why should someone enroll in Pure?
I think one thing that I really appreciate is just the team and the diversity that's represented. I think all of us are coming at things from different industries, different experiences, and we bring that real world application and all of those different experiences. So from what I have gone through in the course, everything is slightly different. It's a slightly different flavor, and I think that makes things much more interesting too.
I agree. I think that's when we started building this team, we talked to a lot of different people, and obviously you all are part of the team. And then the other panel we'll have later coming up. We have people from all different industries, but there's only a small percentage or a less than half are teachers. That many of the people in here they're actually in the field doing project management, or you're like me, we're consulting and teaching. So we're seeing from a student's perspective a lot of different industries, but also like what really works where you are and what's worked for you in your career. So I think that's one of the unique things that we have. Jim, what's the course that you teach, customer service, and how is that unique to project managers?
Yeah, so one of the things that we don't get a lot of in project management is dealing with the human aspects. And so dealing with people is a big part of what project managers are about. And yet a lot of the training just kind of glosses over that. And so even though humans are highly complex, they're very, very predictable. So I put some focus on the way we deal with internal, external stakeholders, with our team members, just some dynamics around that whole idea of the human aspect.
And I wanted to highlight that because I know we all teach different topics, but that's something I've not seen in a project management approach before, is this idea of customer service. We have the idea of servant leadership, which I know, Jim, you talk about that, and it's so important as a PM to be able to handle that relationship and engage people and to get people invested in moving forward. Yeah, let's go back to Josh. We kind of had a technical glitch there. Josh, we'll go back to what you were talking about, please.
No, it really was in tandem in regards to what Tanya was talking about the diversity. You know, I'm a Air Force veteran, and I know that this has educational courses for veterans themselves, and that to me is already an awesome deal right there. So it really it does have that diversity that a lot of courses just don't have. You have, I mean, the AI and automation, we know that other industries or other companies have already put that out, but this is like an all-encompassing thing for aspiring project managers, expert project managers. We got tools about agile that you don't often see, or it's a totally different course. It really has so much diversity for the different types of roles or aspiring project managers, different careers like veterans. And it's just, to me, it's an all-encompassing tool and course that can really excel for a lot of careers out there.
I agree. I think that's one of the big things that, you know, all of you we've talked about before, is we want to make this unique in how can I want to take your class and then turn around and apply something so that I get this nugget. And that's one of the ways that, you know, we've all structured this. They're small courses. You can bang out a course a day, and every day you can learn something new that you can begin applying in your life or in your career as a PM. Candace, did you have something there? It looked like I interrupted you if I did.
Oh, no, you were fine.
Oh,
I actually
okay.
was just thinking along those lines of, regardless of what industry you're in, once you learn that theory, that applying it is what is the creative part. So I think we could all learn from each other on experience. And excuse me, something I said when I first learned about this course is that I wish I had something like this when I was starting out, because to hear from
Right.
experts who've had varying experiences in different industries and different professional experience, it's just great to be able to glean into that and take something to apply towards your everyday work.
I agree. I think I know all of us, I think Dave, you and I had an online conversation about mentoring at one point. Now we get asked all the time, can you mentor? Can you help me? And there's just not enough hours in the day. And that's a mindset all of you have in this, is like, it's very conversational. Everyone has a practical conversational approach, is what I really like and that I got out of all the courses. So I think that's so important. Now, let's go back to each of you, and what attracted you to get involved in Pure? So just hop in when you're anybody can answer that. All of you, I hope. Go ahead, Tanya.
I can say the opportunity. And as ironic as this sounds, I had seen the call to action on LinkedIn, and I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to do the 2 hours of recording. Then I had another friend that sent it to me in a message on LinkedIn, and I said, I still don't believe in myself that I can do the 2 hours of recording. And then thankfully, Amanda reached out directly to me to ask. And I said, okay. And it reminded me of my past experience with the disaster recovery, that, all right, if somebody else sees enough in me to believe that I've got these abilities, then I need to believe in myself. And I had always had a very, very high opinion of you. I had followed you for years. I took your course during 2020 on the ACP, and it got me through a lot. I mean, that was a time when the recordings, I could walk around and I could listen. So I've always held a very high opinion for your educational style. And so once Amanda reached out, I was like, okay, if they're asking me directly, I can do this. I can put this hat on and I can do it. And
But, you know, I think
I'm grateful.
we're grateful you're here. I think you hit the nail on the head, though, something I know I've had in my career, and I've talked to other PMs and some of the people in our group, that it's often easy to succumb to that imposter syndrome where I'm not good enough. And you all have just a wealth of background and knowledge and things that are unique to your industry and what's worked from you. And that's why I think we have just an excellent group. If it's not a bunch of guys like me that are talking all the time, that you all are, all of us are doing, and we're not following a script. It's real world and apply it. And yeah, Tanya, you easily have 2 hours of knowledge and more to share. We're happy that you're involved. So some of the other folks, why did you take the call to get involved? I know Dr. Chambers, you and I have worked together, so I know I kind of strong-armed you into doing this.
Right.
But some of you others, why did you take the call to get involved?
Just to sort of extend on what you finished on there, Joe, I think the pragmatic spirit of what Pure is about is what really appealed to me. When I do coaching for other organizations, I often say to people, you need to put in the PMI cassette, or you need to put in the scrum.org cassette and think of it in that paradigm.
Right.
What I really like about what Pure is doing is there's no cassette or no sort of primer to add. It's very much about what's going to practically make a difference for you and increase your effectiveness in your day-to-day role, which was the bit that I found really appealing.
That's great. Well, Dave, I was trying to set you up there with the coaching because I know you have a lot of mentoring and coaching that you do. We'll come back to that. I have some other questions I want to ask you about. Clinton, why did you get involved? I know you and I have talked a bunch online, and you have a unique background. So what appealed to you?
Sure. So I haven't had the opportunity of doing a formal training like this. So the thought process, like Tanya, was somebody else thinks that I have the potential, and I really just need to step out there. And to be perfectly honest with you, once I started learning more about Pure and what your idea was with it, Joseph, it took off, it stood out, and it made complete sense, because some of the other certifications that are out there, it's all about the theory, which works. You need the information,
sure,
but you need to figure out how to get into the reality of it and know that Dave and I have actually been pinging this week. Just because there's one method that we say to do it, that's not necessarily the right method. We come across 3 different ways with what Dave and I were talking about this week, and it's not the right way. The right way is what works for you in your project and your client.
Right. That's so accurate. Yeah. It's, just like if you play golf or fishing or you're writing a book, there's multiple ways to get to the same result, but there's little nuances and the the depth of experience that you have is how you distinguish which nuance is best. And that's one of the things that I think we get out of this group is we're bringing that real world to people to learn. And just imagine this ripple effect that we have on all of the folks that get involved. Let me go down to Jeremiah and put Jeremiah on the spot. Why did you get involved, Jeremiah?
Well, Joe, this is an opportunity for all of us to start from a place of experience to really help bridge that experience gap that we have in the project management industry right now. And a lot of it is theory, right? So if you go back to the, how do we actually learn? You've got, 70% is doing, 20% is learning from other people's experiences, watching people do it. And then 10% is that knowledge. And so what we're doing is we're really helping bridge that gap from the, hey, I did the thing, I got 10% of it, I watched it. And then, now I've got these excellent leaders out there who are helping us show us how they do this right now in the real world. And then they're going to immediately take action. And so I was like, wow. So now we have people, we can help people bridge that gap, take immediate action. And we're doing it with legends, people right now who have that experience, are out there to make a better world in the community. And why would anybody say no to that?
And that's one thing that we've not talked a whole lot about in our group and really to the public at large. But in the program, we have private communities like mentoring and coaching where people can, it's basically you can leave a post or ask a question or offer advice. and we have this ability to have conversations or learn from one another, not necessarily individual to the teachers, but peer to peer. What works where you work, and here's a problem I'm having where I am, and it's in a private community that only people in the program are going to see that. So it's a great opportunity that we can learn from one another, and that people can coach each other just beyond what we have to offer. That people in the program can learn from each other. Let's go over to Ben Chan. Ben, why did you get involved in Pure? What do you like about it?
Sure. I mean, there's several reasons. One is I get to go and work with other amazing PMs here, be able to go and learn from all of you in how you're doing things, the methodologies there, and sharing those experiences. Two, it's also part of my mission as well, to share more of my experience and knowledge out to others. I've done that a lot on LinkedIn, and this just made sense to be able to go and impart, some of my knowledge in the creativity area with others and seeing how they could apply it. And three, I think it's already been said before I wish I had this when I was project managing, and having others be able to accelerate that learning curve, being able to help them deliver better and ultimately add more value into the world. I'm like, I can't say no to that.
Exactly. I agree. And one of the things that, like Jeremiah, you were talking about is this idea of you have to have the knowledge and the learning, but you learn by doing. But sometimes it's very hard to learn by doing. I'm sure you all do too. You get messages from folks like, how do I start as a PM? How do I get any experience to become a PM? And where do I go there? So let's shift our conversation a little bit. I want people watching this to really get some nuggets. That's one of our philosophy is what are some things people can take away from any time we talk or train that they can apply. So let's shift our focus to the folks watching, especially those that are looking for experience or they want to become a project manager, because I know all of you, we all get those emails and messages all the time. What advice would you give people if they want to be a PM or they want to break into the role of a project manager? So it's a tough question. So anyone who wants to start, we'll just kind of go around. Yeah, go ahead, Candace.
Yeah, I would like to just say start by starting. They say it takes 21 days to make a habit, but it really doesn't. It takes the day you start and the day you decide that you don't want to quit. So
Yep.
There's a lot of work that people are doing that can apply to project management, but just get out there and get the experience. Start volunteering, start partnering, start networking, see what you can do in the roles that you're currently working and even in your communities. And that's a big part about, I know my course is geared towards startups, but it comes from having varied experience with all kinds of different teammates who may or may not have come from the same background. But the most important thing is that we're all aspiring towards the same goal. So just getting out there and doing your part, I think is the best way to get started.
And let me just say, that's why I love your course. It's different than every course is different. Yours is very unique because it is geared towards startups, but a project is like a small business other than it's going to end. And so that's one of the things that I love about your course, because there is a knowledge that we can garner from having that business mentality, even a not-for-profit organization, about making that business value. Same idea in a startup. And so I think you hit the nail on the head. You got to start somewhere. Everyone in this group started somewhere. So important. All right, who else has some advice you would give to those folks that want to break into this role of a PM?
So for me, sir, it always starts with the mindset. Of course, it's that day one aspect of it, right? But again, speaking to the veterans, when you look back on it, I've been a PM since I was 20 or about 22 years old, because I was leading teams. I just didn't know what it was called. I didn't know the way that I was doing certain things. I was providing a hybrid type of methodologies. I was doing stakeholder registers, work breakdown structures. We just call it something different. And another huge career, we've already mentioned it, that really a lot of people don't realize is teachers. I mean, my gosh, really it can be almost any career, but teachers, you've had it in you this whole time. So it's all about that mindset of knowing that you've had it within you. You just need a little guidance to let you know, hey, you've been doing it. And that's, kind of trying to bring it back to this course is like, this course does exactly that, to show you how you can implement what you've learned in this course into
Right.
your own career right now. And then you can translate that into your resume to get new job opportunities or whatever it may be. So I think that was a big thing for a lot of people, is it starts with the mindset. And so many careers can do that.
I agree. Let's go up to Clinton. What do you think, Clinton?
I mean, it's you really just have to start. Candace hit the nail on the head. You've got to start. You've got to have a drive. And most people, they actually have organizational skills and people skills. Then it's a matter of putting it all together and knowing about the projects and figuring out that just that PowerPoint you put together, it was a project in your class that you did in college.
Right.
And it's all, you just got to gather it all up and put it all together.
I agree. Well, let's go to Dave. I know, Dave, you do a lot of mentoring and coaching, so I'm sure you have a good insight to this question.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things to say to people is you don't need the project manager title to do project management and apply the theory in real life.
Right.
And as Clinton's touching, I deal with a lot of students nowadays, actually, and I tell those guys, you are running a 3-year project to get a bachelor's degree in the UK. You know the scope, you know the timeline, you know the risks of partying, getting girlfriends and boyfriends and going out in the nightclubs. Avoid those. Right. But there's a lot of sort of parallels, and projects are going on all around you, no matter your career, your stage of life. If you've got a family, if you're young and starting out, there are projects happening all around you where you can apply these ideas, skills, and experience. So there's nothing that should be a barrier to stop you from getting stuck in and really building out your experience from day one.
I agree. Spot on. Dr. Chambers, they put you on the spot. What advice would you give to those folks?
Yeah, I've had a great opportunity the last couple of weeks while traveling to talk to a number of project managers, people on large projects, program managers. Have another meeting this week with program managers, people that worked on the 911 memorial and some of those big government projects. So I'll be with them this Thursday. And so they've already asked me that question, what's great about this? What do you think I should do? And so on. And my sort of standard answer so far has been that the broader your knowledge is, not just about the basics of project management, but your broader knowledge about human behavior, about how projects run, barriers, things that you run into, how to overcome things, that comes from other people most of the time. That comes from experience, but it also comes from just getting out there and doing it. So I think Pure offers, and I have, as you know, I don't know how many hundreds of project managers I've had to deal with over in my career. And they struggle. And, most of my time has been going to lunch, going to dinner, connecting at breakfast, listening to them talk about where they're struggling or how to get something done. And the reason I think a lot of those conversations are there is because they don't have a broad enough knowledge about what the industry is about. They just sort of get in a silo of this is how you manage a project, and they don't think about the other things. You get that when you sit down, Dave probably knows this, when you sit down over lunch or breakfast or something, and you're just having this conversation and you're helping them overcome some of these things. But bottom line is what I've been sharing this past week while traveling was you need to get a broader knowledge than anyone can master certain things about projects, but you need a broader knowledge, and you need that from people who do it. You need that from people who are experienced in those areas. If it's startups, it's startups. If it's mentoring, it's mentoring. So that's really been my play on it, and I've gotten a lot of interest from people going, you're right. We have great project managers. They're very skilled, but the broader knowledge, skills, attitudes, habits, as they come up, then the whole project comes up. So that's kind of been my perspective up to this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a spirit of transparency, Jim has coached me a lot on project management when we were on a huge project in Indianapolis together. and learned so much from Jim and about making those relationships and more beyond that tunnel vision we can get into as a PM when we think about just the scope, but it's so much about relationship and communication. So I've always been thankful for Jim in that regard. Of course, he always made me buy lunch for those conversations. But Jeremiah, what advice would you give to those individuals?
You know, I get asked a lot, you know, of people talking to me about how do we get into project management? I always like to first understand the why. And I know I'm going with, well, why do you want to get into project management?
Sure.
Because it does matter. And a lot of them, what they have is they have what we call the owl brain versus the wow brain. And what happens is they're like, their limiting beliefs are not letting them truly, step into what they're capable of doing and understanding, how do I actually get in here? How will it serve me? And how can I serve others? And so very first thing I always run into is, well, I really want to step into it, but how can I do it? What can I do to get there? And it's like, first you have to get your mind right, which echoes back to what, Josh was saying, is you really got to understand, like, do you really want to do this? Do you have the mindset for it? Do you have the actual, the character strengths and the different depth and breadth and the skills needed? And we all do, but you have to believe it. And then once you believe it, you get to the wow brain. What's the opportunity? The minute you have that, everything's possible. You will speak, you will articulate your experience better. You will show up there to the job as a project coordinator, whatever you want, entry level, and you're going to show up believing you should be there. And once you believe you can be there, you can do anything. So one of the very first things I help them with is reframing that mindset. And then we can talk experience and breaking down the language and all that stuff. But if your mind ain't right, game over.
I agree. Who has that? Did we get Tanya? Your advice you would give to folks to come into the PM field?
I love what Jeremiah just said, and even like piggybacking off of Jim a little bit too. It really is about believing in yourself. I mean, I know in our conversation, Joe, I told you I was the accidental project manager in disaster recovery. It took somebody else believing in me to make me realize that I had been walking in those shoes all along. And then that transition became easier for me to accept that that was my role, that was my mission. And I think the years that I spent as a volunteer chapter leader and serving others and helping to bring in speakers, several of you who are on here had spoken for that chapter too, but bringing people into the mix to educate other people and just having those conversations organically with other humans about how to communicate, how to build relationships. Yes, project management from technical scope, budget, all of that is very important, but you have to understand the other people and the other players in order to get those components to come together. So I would tell people to volunteer. I think I probably learned more from my volunteer leadership than I did my years of experience working in siloed industries.
Sure.
So those experiences teach you a lot about yourself and others and how to get the projects accomplished.
And then, Ben, what advice would you proffer?
Well, I think for those, we've covered a lot of things here, and really it's that coupling of mindset to action, right? And hopefully that if you have the right mindset around why you're pursuing your project management career, what you want to try and do with it, is then looking back and saying, what is a new lens I need to look through inside of the world, right? Yeah. Whether it's actually in your professional career or even, raising kids, setting up lunch, going on vacation, right? All of these are all little projects now that you can go and take to heart and actually understand, how can I apply all of these different aspects into not just my career, but organizing my life, helping to move the needle in all different capacities, right?
Right. That's so true. There are so many, like all of you said, is you have to start somewhere. And then there's so many things that you're doing already that are projects. It's just having that nomenclature or tying those concepts to what you're already doing. Well, my free advice that I offer people is ask. You can't be afraid to ask. And so I think often individuals email up me, and I know they email you all, and they ask that question to us. Like, we're going to give them the silver secret, to how to be a PM tomorrow. But we're not in their position of authority. And that individual These have that confidence in one. I think, like you got to start somewhere. They go ask to start somewhere and go to your manager, go to your supervisor and say, I'm really want to take on this type of a role, whether that's a project coordinator or a team lead, or give me a small project and allow me to learn by doing. Because I think all of us know that there are opportunities where, like, we really need to get this work done, but we don't have a PM to step in. And there's things waiting. And often as managers, people in the middle management or department heads, they don't always go and pick the person to be the PM. That sometimes you have to step up to the plate and say, I want to do it. What do you have for me? How can I help? But then be willing and show up, like all of you said. You got to just dive in, and you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes, but we learn by doing. And I don't know about you all, but I've made so many mistakes. I've like the best lessons I have are from mistakes that I've made, not just in project management, but in my life. That the pain is you learn. Remember, when you're a kid, you put your finger on the stove. You don't do that anymore. Or you put a ring on your finger. You don't do that anymore. Oh, wait, that's something else. But you learn by doing. I think that's so important. But you got to ask and volunteer and make yourself available and show up and do the work. The best ability, dependability. No. All right, very good, very good. Well, what else should we talk about with Pure and why people should enroll or what they're going to get out of this course? Why don't we talk about each of your courses and give a little nugget that people are going to take away from what you're teaching. So I'm just going to call on each of you. So think clearly for a moment, and then we're going to pop around the room. And what's like a real nugget someone can get out of your course that they can go apply in the role as a PM? So Jeremiah, I know you have lots of nuggets. So what's something that people will learn from your course that they can apply?
Well, one of the main things about my course is I really bring in a lot of emotional intelligence to project management. Mm-hmm. So, you can have the methodologies, you can have, the technical aspect of it, the ways of working. But when it comes down to it, leadership is the ultimate advantage. We manage, people manage projects. People, manage, platforms. And overall, how we show up and who shows up matters the most. And so I always tell people that crisis reveals character. And that's a core competency when it comes to emotional intelligence. It's how we manage ourselves in those moments of crisis that shows who we are and our presence. So one of the main things I like to point out there is that everything that we do is around congruency and our moments of crisis, because there tends to be a little bit more in project management than we know.
Yeah, that's so true. To be able to navigate that stress and pressure and the frenzy that stakeholders often have that is higher than what it needs to be. And you're in the middle of that. So it's
absolutely.
So good. Well, how's it go again? Crisis reveals character?
Yep. Crisis reveals character.
I like that. That's great. See, I learned something good tonight. Good. All right. Let's hop over to Dr. Chambers. We're going to pop around here a little bit. So Jim, tell us about your customer service class and what's something people are going to get out of this.
I think one of the things that I cover in there that's helpful is triangulation. So when problems come up between you and team members, you and stakeholders, when people get angry, people are frustrated, they're under a lot of pressure, it may not have anything to do with you at all. And you need to depersonalize that. And so I show them a little, just from my psychology background, a little bit of how triangulation works. You may not even be the issue at all. They may be frustrated with you, but actually they're frustrated with their father-in-law or with their children or with a previous experience. So you need to learn to depersonalize, and when it comes to conflict resolution with another person. So I talk about that a little bit. I talk about how to identify how past experiences help you see what's going on in someone's life. So even in the most difficult circumstances, if you can connect with a person at a good level and begin to understand where they're coming from, you can not only resolve the human issue that's going on, you can also move forward with the project, because that's really your goal. But we don't need to see people as our problem. They may look like it sometimes, but if you have a more objective view of it. So I try to talk about that a little bit, simply because I've run into that with project managers for years. They get all hung up on personality, And that's not really the issue here. So anyway, that's just one little thing that I try to get at.
Yeah, well, I like that. I know you and I have talked about that
Yeah.
on a lot of different projects. So I appreciate
That's why I
that.
got all those free lunches. Yeah.
Yeah. There's truth in that. Clinton, tell us about your course and what folks are going to take away from it, or a little nugget.
Sure, appreciate it. So adaptive project management strategies, it's all about being adaptive. We all know that there's change out there and nobody likes it, but we all need to deal with it, especially as project managers. And disruptions happen, so you got to be prepared and roll with the punches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Going off of what Jeremiah was saying earlier. So, and they'll find in this course, it's encouraging the teams to think outside the box and don't focus on the square. There's other things, there's other tactics, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
There's 3 different methods that are out there. Dave and I are part of them, and Walt, one of our other team members, that it's out there, and we're going to get it out there so everyone can see it, that there's more than one way to, as the saying is, skin a cat. So
Right. And it's so true that you and I may think about a solution and 2 different solutions, but we get to the same result. So then you get into the nuance of, okay, what's most cost effective and time effective and resource, laden. And that's the nuts and bolts of project management. So true.
yes.
Candace, tell us about your course. Like we said, it's a startup. It has a startup mindset for PMs and why it's unique for project managers. Because I love your class.
Yes, it's about the power of the pivot. I come from Indiana. We love basketball here, and we talk about that pivot foot. Sometimes you have to keep one foot down and get into the next position. And that's kind of how project management works. You just spoke about resources, cost constraints, things like that. So you have to be creative to implement solutions and strategy behind that. So I think the course is great for people to learn mastering the power of the pivot. And I just really quickly want to touch on something you said too, on asking for permission to start on some of the projects. I want to use an opportunity to encourage people that sometimes you might hear a no, especially in this given market, and that's okay. You have to be your first yes, and your first yes is to be prepared. And so taking a course like this is what's helping you get into that mindset that everyone's speaking of and helping equip you. So when you do have that opportunity, you're ready to go. So don't be discouraged by the no's. Be your first yes, and learn the power of the pivot and all these great strategies that these wonderful other project managers are teaching.
It's so good. I know in my life, something I've taken to heart is sometimes you say a prayer and, God doesn't say yes, but no may mean not right now. And I think that's true in so many things. You get a no, that doesn't mean you close that door forever. You might come back and knock on it again later on. And I love that idea that you have in your class about the pivot, because that is something that you have to do so much in project management, as we know. Great. Let's go to Ben. Tell us about your class, Ben, and something folks will learn from you.
Sure. So my class on building your creativity, enhancing your problem solving, I hope people take away from this that creativity is not a talent that you're born with. It's something you can continue to go and build. And there could be the misnomer where, project managers are very type A, you're very structured, and I don't have that creativity built inside of myself to be able to exhibit. And I'd say, no, you absolutely have that capability, and you can use that to help problem solve with your team to get better results.
Yeah, that's so true. I know you have creativity. Did you draw that art behind you?
No, I didn't. I actually got it from a Marvel artist at my local comic book convention.
Right.
But I do my own doodling as well, and do some t-shirt designs and stuff as well.
Yeah, see, I thought you did. I wondered if you did that art. That's cool. Well, your class is really fun, and I think you're right. Creativity is something we can all learn. And that's a conversation that, I know you and I have texted back and forth a little bit about creativity, in that project management is creative. It is not a cooking recipe. It is, you have to be creative in how you combine the different elements together, and more in this and less than that. And every project's different. So there is not a copy paste mentality in project management. You have to be creative.
Yeah,
So I
you
think
gotta
that's
be you
so
gotta be
good.
like the mom's home cooking, you know, where they don't
Yeah,
have measurements for everything. It's like, I'm just gonna put in salt, and you're asking how much salt? Am I putting in a teaspoon? You know, how much is it? And they're just grabbing the
Right.
fingers going, just this much.
Yeah.
Just a tad of this, and we're going to add a little bit of spice into it, right? Because
Yeah.
maybe you want to spice it up a bit, and you're doing it sometimes by feel. It's not absolutely completely regimented to say, no, you have to use exactly this amount of spice and this much oregano.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's such a great analogy, because I think, especially when folks are new to the PM world or they're growing in their career, they want to know exactly what I do. And it is like mom's cooking. You put a little dash in, or a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's so true. I like that creativity. Let's go up to Tanya.
So, in my course, From Risk to Rewards, the big thing that I hope people take away from it is to be proactive rather than reactive. We always kind of struggle to get people to focus on the risks and always find ourselves running behind them after it's happened. So, I really did try to interject the creativity into it by coming up with the 27 different power tools to kind of train people to flip for different scenarios. And then I intentionally put different scenarios in there too to make people sort of relate or identify with potential things that they've maybe seen in their jobs or in any projects that they've been facing. So, but the whole goal of it is to look at risk differently, try to get ahead of it, and
Right.
sometimes too, not see it just as a threat, but as the potential opportunities to grow through that chaos.
Exactly. Yeah, the risk and reward. I know you and I have talked about that in our webinar we did. You can find on the YouTube channel, but the idea of risk and reward, that risk is everywhere. You know, drive a car, it's risk, but you get the reward that you don't have to walk 20 miles. So
Exactly.
risk is everywhere, and the reward balances that. So fantastic. Let's just go right down the middle here. Let's go to Dave. And Dave, tell us about your class and what people will learn from what you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with mastering agile retrospectives. The reason I'm really keen on this one is if you come from a traditional project management background and you're looking for one agile practice to bring into your team to make a tangible difference straight away, I think it's regular retrospectives. Right. I think it's great because it's a step change from traditional lessons learned that we do once at the end, then forget about. This allows you to harness that learning throughout the lifespan of a project, which is a big win. So in terms of project performance, it's a big step up. But you can use them for lots of different things. You can use them to build more organic relationships with your team. You can use them to pool collective creativity and ideas. And you can use them for vehicles for catharsis when you're going through a really tough project and you need to let off some steam. So I think if there's one agile practice or one agile sort of idea that you want to bring into your traditional project management skill set, retrospectives is the one to go for. I've also got lean, which is another one. So I'll just hop to that quickly. And when people think of lean, I think the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, it's about getting rid of waste, which it is. That's a big part of lean. But of the 7 principles of lean, eliminating waste is one. And there's a whole host of other ideas around things like empowering your teams, around delivering as fast as you can, around deciding as late as you can. There's a really rich tapestry and a really rich history of lean that I think really gets taken for granted nowadays. And that's a little sad, because lean in a lot of ways is the status quo of work now, because it's been shaping the world of work for so long. And in my course, one of the bits that I'm really happy with is the history lesson on lean. We go all the way back to the 15th century, where the Venetian Navy were implementing lean principles. And it's really nice.
Jim was there.
You were there at the time, actually. I saw you working the line. Now I remember. Yeah, but it's just really great to see how lean sort of shaped the world of work for, at this point, hundreds of years, and just how it continues to evolve and provide more and more value.
Right. Well, that's both your courses are excellent, and I think people could take. I know people could take things from both of those and apply them immediately. And I apologize, Jim. That was uncalled for. It's okay. So I don't have to buy you lunch. And let's go to Josh. Josh, go ahead. Tell us about your course, why it's cool, and what people are going to take away from it.
Absolutely. Mine's the AI and automation, and that's everywhere now. That is absolutely everywhere. And right now, a lot of people see AI and they think, oh, we're going to be doing pictures or videos or something like that. Or what can AI do for me for project management? And it can go from the smallest things to the largest things.
Right.
I mean, I know other courses, they go deep into it. They go into LLMs and generative AI and machine learning. That's not going to help you learning the ins and outs of the definition of AI. No, what's going to help you is the practicality. And we actually have workshops for that, right? In fact, we even use ChatGPT, for things like, for predictive analytics, right? And I'll say, again, going from the smallest thing, when I started to become a project manager, the number one thing that the government loved that I did was after action meeting reports. So after the meeting, I would then, gather all the information and then send it out. Well, there's AI and automation for that. And you can literally be done as soon as the meeting's over. You don't even have to type a thing. And it's just, it really is a difference between being productive and being busy. And so we can really take away that busyness throughout all of it and be a lot more productive. And again, I just feel like so many other courses are just so nitty gritty getting into it. And like, that doesn't help me for the, the regular, beginner to expert level PMs. And I think this is, again, a lot more practical than a lot of other ones that I really wanted to show that a lot of us can do. Oh, I will actually note this just to make sure here. You have to always make sure if you are utilizing AI, it's always approved at the executive or senior level position. Again, in the government, sometimes AI can't be used because of the, PII or the personal information. So just at least wanted to make sure we say that too.
That's a very good point. Well, let me just wrap up our conversation with first saying thank you to all of you for being involved. I feel so lucky to have you all on this endeavor. I mean, this is something that has been 2 years in the making to get here. It's been, I've dreamed about it. I've thought about it over and over and over. And I think we've put together a really fantastic group of people, not just people that are talking about project management, but we're all doing project management. You all are great examples for folks that come into our program. And then for you watching, let me just educate you a little bit about what we've talked about these individual classes. So I want to be clear that Pure is 60 hours of training. It's actually slightly more than 60, but it's 60 hours of training. And so we have lots of these individual classes that you're seeing from folks here, and then we'll have another panel. You'll meet some more of our instructors. So it's not just me or Jeremiah or one individual teaching the whole thing. We all teach differently, and we all have different topics. So you're learning from lots of different people. And if you are a PMI professional, whether that's PMP or CAPM or ACP or any of those that you need PDUs, you get 60 PDUs at the end of the program, or actually you get your PDUs as you complete the courses. So every course you get a certificate, and it has a breakdown of the PDUs you earned from that course. So we wanted to incorporate that idea in Agile of getting incremental deliverables, that you don't have to wait all the way to the end to get the good stuff, that you get a piece of the PDUs as you go. And the aggregate of those will be your 60 PDUs to redo your PMP or your ACP or whatever cert you have. So that's why we have all these different courses. So it's not just one person, it's all these different professionals that are teaching a variety of topics, as we've talked about tonight. So I want to thank you all for participating and offering your insight into Pure and giving some good heartfelt advice to folks that are watching, that they can take something from this video and apply it in their life. And I think that's always the most important, that you get value. You always want to strive for business value. So on that note, I will wrap up our conversation. I thank you all. And if you're watching, go out to puremanagementalliance.com. And if you want to get in touch with any of our instructors, there's a team page, and you can find them all on LinkedIn. You can find all of us there, or reach out if you have questions or comments. And of course, we all want you to enroll in the program and to become a Pure project manager. So thank you all. Have a fantastic evening.